folks, welcome to Board Game Breakfast. My name is Tom Vasel, and wow, this is the week of Essen, the big Spiel fair that's held every year in the city of Essen, Germany, with hundreds of publishers and probably close to 1,000 new games that are there. Very exciting, and I'm actually going this year. If you happen to be there and you see me, come say hi. I'll be the big guy with the hat on. Come find me. Just say hello. I always like when people come up and say hi. Don't say, well, you look like you were in a hurry, so come walk with me and say hello. I hope to see you there. I'm looking very much forward to going there and just going around and seeing different things. There's a meetup. If you go to our guild or our forums on, go to a website, there's a meetup. If you definitely want to see us, there's a meetup on Thursday night at Essen Fair. So that'll be interesting. This is going to take a huge chunk out of my week here as I go and do this. I'll be gone a whole week. So Board Game Breakfast next week is going to be delayed by a day. I apologize about that. It will be a Tuesday Board Game Breakfast rather than a Monday. Dice Tower Convention. Okay, well folks, I said last week, get your tickets now. Don't delay, don't wait. It will sell out before the end of the year probably. Yeah, it sold out in a week. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, first of all, I'll make a couple things clear. We're not making this convention some exclusive event that only a few people can get to. First, 1,000 people is a lot of people, but it's also the max limit we can get. You can only get conventions years in advance often, the space, so you have to plan ahead of time. Next year, it's going to go up. It's going to get larger, and the year after that, it's going to get even larger than that. We'll be able to grow very rapidly, but that's just how it works out. So I apologize for those of you who needed to wait for whatever reason, but there is a waiting list. Get on it. You never know. People might drop out and you have a chance to get a ticket. So check that out. And also, folks, hey, thanks. I'm glad 1,000 of you are interested in checking out the convention. So that's about it. Let's get to the news. Whew, so many exciting things. First in the news, we have Magic the Gathering. This is the biggest news. They just kind of casually released it in a podcast that there's a Magic the Gathering board game. More information coming out this week at the Spiel Fair. That's like, what does that even mean? And of course, there's rampant speculation, and people are like, I can't believe this is a collectible board game, and this and that, and they're stealing this. We don't know anything else about this. We could guess that it's a game that's like Magic, or who knows. But it certainly is interesting, and it certainly is news. It's been a while since Wizards of the Coast has tried their hand at any board game, although the last one that they touched, the Dungeons & Dragons Lords of Waterdeep game, that turned out pretty well. So who knows? And I'm certainly very interested to see how this works out. The rest of the news is pretty small. Steve Jackson is releasing a Garbage Pail Kids game, and that makes me very happy. As a kid, yes, they're very gross and disgusting, Garbage Pail Kids, and they're still gross and disgusting, but come on, that's very nostalgic from my childhood. AEG has announced a few new games. Empire Engine, which is this building a little empire. It seems like a small game about rotating gears. The whole empire is about rotating these gears. And Patronize, which is the newest game in their Tempest series, which is a kind of a medieval slash, like a Three Musketeers almost setting for a bunch of their games. I have a few of the games on my shelf from the different Tempest games. Dominaire, Courtier, Love Letter. The original Love Letter was from this setting. So I'm very eager to see how this one is, especially since this is another Japanese reprint. And that's pretty much all the news, folks. I mean, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new games and news that we'll find out this week. I will say this, though. I'm going to try to be able to be tweeting pictures and all sorts of news from the convention. So if you haven't done this before, get on board now at Dice Tower News, because you're going to Dice Tower _news. You want to get all this news, I'll be tweeting directly from there. And so hopefully you'll see some cool new games as I discover them this week. Well, one game seems to take half of this shelf here, and that is Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride Europe, Ticket to Ride Nordic countries, Ticket to Ride Markland, but actually all the Ticket to Ride in there. Regular Ticket to Rides are in here. I have the Alvin and Dexter Monster expansion in here, the 1910, the 1912 expansions. We have the Africa map, the Switzerland map, the India map, the Asian maps. Everything is in here except the dice expansion because that's garbage, okay? And I had to, and even when I got the newest map expansion, what was the newest one? The Netherlands here, I didn't have any more room, so I had to keep that one in its expansion box. And so I don't know what I'll do when they come out with the inevitable next map expansion. I actually do have my the new Ticket to Ride, the 10th anniversary one, so that's the one I use for when I want to just play Ticket to Ride basic game. These, like one of these boxes has all the cards in it. Another one has all the trains in it. Another one's just full of all the different boards. So yeah, I actually need to take all three of them with me. Then I got Suburbia, which is an absolutely amazing game. Very fantastic city building game. One of my favorites in my top 100. And then this little game here, which is the first game that the Fragler brothers came out with called Leapfrog. And I thought this was a very clever game, even though it does come in a video cassette case, but it's pretty cool. And so it's basically you have these frogs and you're trying to position them into the right spot and at the same time not get eaten. One of the frogs ends up getting cooked at the end of the game. So you don't want to be that frog. Very interesting. So this is a shelf that will probably stay this way for a very long time.
Around this time of year, we begin to receive more requests for atmospheric, horror-themed games. Tonight, I speak of A Touch of Evil. Rather than Lovecraft, A Touch of Evil draws its inspiration from the writings of Washington Irving and Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is horror in colonial America, in the isolated little town of Shadowbrook, with... Okay, it's I told you it's inspired by literature, it's not a totally original setting. And into this den of secrets and fear walk 2 to 8 damned souls. The players. They could be an idealistic schoolteacher, a traumatized veteran of the War of Independence, a drifter who has seen things that should not be seen. Okay, look, I have to talk about this. A lot of people complain about the art style in this game. They say it's cheesy, but here's the thing. You look at the pictures of these people, look at how much fun they're having. I cannot help having, how can you not have fun watching these people? What's wrong with you? Horror is not about strategic thinking and stuff. Horror is about surprise, the unexpected, the unknown. And with each grisly murder, each terrifying mystery, the Shadow Tracker moves one space closer to darkness, and should it reach its conclusion, the town of Shadowbrook will be swallowed in darkness, to be seen again, nevermore. No, the zombie games are next week. Come back next week. Steve's gonna be back from jury duty. Bye.
Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer. My name is Cody. I recently completed my top 100 games of all time, and you can go ahead and you can see that over at thediscriminatinggamer.com. But I didn't include Evil Cody in the show, and he was a little upset, and he just wanted to take a moment to tell you what his favorite game of all time is. So, I'm sorry.
Oh, hello there. I would like to talk to you today about something that is not merely a board game, but is perhaps the crowning achievement of Western civilization. I'm talking about Kreskin's Esp. Kreskin's Esp is more than simply a board game. It is an experience about mind reading, mind control, and other things with the mind. Inside the box you will find a game board, cards, a player's screen, this thing, other kinds of different cards. I tell you, I have played Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition. I have played 5 Tribes. I have played Dominion. Compared to Kreskin's Esp, they are all pieces of crap. I never make a move without consulting Kreskin's Esp. So I don't move much. You may be wondering how to play Kreskin's Esp, but that's just the thing. You don't. Kreskin's Esp plays you.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know.
Hey folks, I'm Vasel here.
Jason Levine.
And today's special guest.
Brian Pope.
And today our question is from Steven, and he says, what do you do when a player does not narrate their turn? What that means is a player who takes their turn, they don't tell you what they're doing. They're just moving pieces on the board. And when it's done, Steven says, he wants to ask these people, what did you just do? And he wishes they would do it so he didn't have to ask them all the time, what did you just do? Should people kind of say, I'm going here, I'm taking these points, or should they just move around quickly? And how do you deal with people who do that?
Oh, wow. I mean, every group is different. There's always somebody in the group, an alpha gamer, who knows what they're doing, and they really don't care if anyone else sees what they're doing because they know they're doing it right. It's very frustrating. I think you should just set them aside and say, hey, you gotta tell us what you're doing and explain it to the rest of the group. They're going to hate that, and you might end up just being short one person next time you play. That person.
I think if it's something that really bothers you, if someone does, some people, and it could be anybody, they quick move everything around. They're like, I'll go here, 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 here. Now I don't really mind that if I'm paying attention and I can watch, but some people are not like that. Some people need kind of things explained. What did you just do? When you're playing sometimes a solitaire game and you're on your own board, each person doing stuff, most people don't care. You're moving stuff around. But when it affects other people, and they're like, wait a minute, I was going to take that. That space is gone. Oh yeah, I did that 2 turns ago. It's good to play quick, and I'm all for playing quickly. But if you play so quickly and you don't kind of tell people what you're doing, that can come across as annoying. And I know I've done it before myself.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the game. I mean, some games, when we're doing Agricola, I know you're laughing at me, but when we're doing Agricola, I just put my piece down, take the stuff, and continue on, and say, okay, your turn, instead of saying, I went to the wood and took the 3 wood, and, I just put my piece down and take it. And so... And when other people do that, it doesn't bother me because I assume that everyone's playing correctly, so I don't even think about what did they do. I don't know. It's a question more about are they afraid that people are cheating, or is it more about that they don't know what's going on in the game? If it's worrying about cheating, I don't usually worry about that. But if it's worrying about just what's going on, I guess it depends on the game. When it's a game where you really need to explain what you're doing, I usually do explain, or I think people should explain.
I don't think anyone's really worrying about cheating. They're more worried about, I didn't realize I was going to go to that space. I was doing a strategy to do this. I was going to sell to that merchant, and that merchant was already sold to. I didn't catch that because you were so quick.
Yeah, but you could see, things like that don't bother me.
But not everyone's as fast as you.
No, but even if someone doesn't say anything, if you see a piece there, well... Then someone had gone there. They don't have to say I went there and took it from you. It's it's just okay. There's a piece there. You should be able to see the board and see what's going on. You shouldn't have to worry about something like that. I mean, it depends on the game. Like I'm saying, Agricola. If someone goes to the start player space, well, if you go to the start player space, you take the start player marker anyway. But if you go to a different space, like the play one thing down or whatever, to take the wood, you go to take the wood, you take it. Or you go on the fences and you start building your fences.
Yeah, but I'm saying I've seen Euro games where people are like, I'll go over here, I'll take 2 points and do this, and move over here and do that. And because your turn might be more involved, and they do a whole bunch of things. I got 5 gold, and you're like, how'd you do that? Here's 16 points, because they add it to 4 different places. Like, this gives 2 points, that gives 4 points, that gives 3. And they're like, oh, I got that many points. And you're like, what? Huh? Where? Because they've already added all the bonuses and everything.
Yeah, they have a responsibility to explain it to everybody else.
Help us stupid people out. Come on, man. Throw us a bone.
But like you said, like when we were just playing earlier, you said that I usually count the points for everyone anyway, so I'm like, you get 5, you get 4, you get 2.
Yeah, but some people don't like that, is what I'm saying.
Players make mistakes too, so they need to slow down to show everyone.
Yeah,
for the verification.
That's true. I guess, most games...
Even you, Jason, will make a mistake once in 1,000 games.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, anyhow, that's all the time we have for questions today. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
The American immigrant story is one filled with exploitation, ingenuity, hardship, and perseverance. But most of all, it's about hard work. And consummate with this experience are enclaves of ethnic life. Japantown, Little Italy, Germantown, but none are more iconic than Chinatown. As a local business person, your goal is fairly straightforward. Earn more money than your opponents and earn victory as the most successful business person in Chinatown. Of course, things would be much easier if you didn't have other people trying to muscle in on your turf. But with a little bit of negotiation, some diplomacy, and hard-nosed negotiating, you'll be rolling in cash in no time. Every round begins with the draw of property cards. Choose amongst these cards to determine which real estate locations are yours. You only get to choose a few from amongst the ones you've drawn. This allows you to shed less useful locations, and the decision becomes more meaningful as the board fills up. And as you make your decision, so are your opponents, which might put a damper on your dreams of expansion. You then draw business tiles randomly from the bag, and then the fun begins. Negotiations are then opened up to all players. You can trade locations for other locations. You can also use your hard-earned cash to get the location you desperately need. Or perhaps it's trading business tiles that's needed to seal the deal. You can even trade business tiles for other business tiles, or even cash. There's really no limit to what you can trade. In fact, the game opens up when you start thinking outside the box. If Chinatown has any faults, it's that it can slow down as players tabulate whether a deal works out for them or not. But clever deals such as the promise of future tiles or locations can help remedy this. This period of freeform negotiations is hectic, tension-filled, exhausting, and exhilarating. I love it, and it's hard to find other board game experiences that provide the same feelings. After negotiating, you can set up shop and receive income in proportion to the size of your businesses, and hopefully claim victory after 6 rounds.
Because I'll be Essen this week, you're not going to see any new reviews from me. Although my team of reviewers with Dan King, you'll see different reviews from them scattered out. But I'm still going to be posting my top 100 of all time. I'll be doing 2 more of those along with Dan. And this week from me, Sam, and Z, we sit down with the People's Choice Top 100 of all time, and we go through all of them. So starting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days in a row, you'll see 20 games that we go over each day. These are like 20 to 30-minute videos each, so hopefully that's enjoyable, entertaining. We talk about why those games make the list, and we had a lot of fun going over that, so hopefully you have fun watching that this week. Also, of course, there's the Dice Tower show. Now, this the audio show. Z and I did a preview last week of Essen video-wise, but we did that right after we recorded the audio show. And so we took a lot of questions. We talked about a lot of other stuff besides Essen. So some people were, fair enough, disappointed by that. But we did an actual Essen preview show where we talked about a lot of the games that we're interested in, some of our top 10 games that we're very interested about. Eric's already in Europe, so I recorded this one with Z Garcia, and that's going up today rather than tomorrow like normal so that people have a chance. And we got the enhanced version of that done, so they're both going up today, so hopefully that will help people. I mean, maybe help people who are going to Essen to focus and look for some of the games that they might be interested in. And then, of course, there's the entire Dice Tower Network, and you can find all that at dicetowernetwork.com.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here with a neat thing alert. Last weekend, my 7-year-old daughter and I were in town running errands. I was driving, so as we weaved our way through the city streets, we just happened to find ourselves at our friendly local game shop. What are the odds that we'd end up there during our travels? Now, I was just going to pop in to ogle, perhaps gently embrace the copy of Space Hulk 4th Edition that's been teasing me from their display window. But when we walked in, the counter person asked me if we were there for the Gamer Garage Sale. Gamer Garage Sale? I had heard each of those words spoken individually before, but never strung together in that particular beautiful way. Now, just what was this Gamer Garage Sale? Well, several days prior, the game shop had posted an announcement on their Facebook page encouraging customers to bring in their old games to sell in the store's game room. The day of the sale, the room contained a smattering of previously owned games that people had brought in to resell. My daughter and I had a great time sifting and sorting through all of the discounted cardboard collections, looking for hidden gems to share together. And our search was not in vain, yielding a pile of 7 games. While all of them were used, some were even unplayed and hadn't even had their cardboard components punched out yet. Best of all, the price for this pile was less than 1/5 of that of Space Hulk. So, it was with pride that we loaded these secondhand treasures into our car. was our store's first Gamer Garage sale, and the first time I've heard of any place even holding one. Does your local game shop have Gamer Garage sales? If not, I'd recommend asking them if they'd be open to the idea. I thought it was a fantastic way for the business to reach out to and involve the local gaming community, and the event definitely increased my sense of customer loyalty to them, demonstrated by my recent purchase of Space Hulk 4th Edition. But that's not what's important here. Gamer Garage sale. Neat thing.
Hey folks, today I wanted to take a look at a website that I check pretty much every day. The biggest website on the internet is Board Game Geek, for board games anyway, boardgamegeek.com. But the internet that I check after that is the subreddit for board games. This Reddit is a big forum website and such, its own community, and there's a section for board games. And that's actually broken up into smaller sections, but very few of those smaller sections see the same kind of activity that the board game one does. I would say about 2 years ago, this forum really picked up and started taking off steam, and so there's quite a few. I mean, it's a very active forum. A thread can get posted there, and that will be pushed off the front page easily within hours if it's not taken up in. Now, these are kind of old school forums in a sense, and so when you reply to stuff, there's all these different levels and things, and it's sometimes the conversation can be a little jarring to try to go read through the conversation, but usually I sort them by the newest first, but because the newest comment might be nestled under an old comment, sometimes it's a little confusing to me which one is first, but still, I usually just read through the whole thread once and then don't worry about it anymore. They have some very strict rules, and at the same time, they're very free. Like, they're very strict about posting your own content. For example, I'm not supposed to post my own videos unless I do at least 10 other posts that aren't about my videos, for example, which I always found that a little bit odd. People say, well, you need to contribute to the community, and I thought, well, by making these videos, we are contributing to the community. Well, you need to interact with people. Well, the more we interact with people, the less time we have to make videos. So, I mean, I like to interact with people, but I don't like to type comments just to type comments. But that's BSB. I don't need to have all my stuff on there. And basically, my reviews don't show up there unless someone else says, hey, I want people to see this review, and they show up. I would say maybe 1 out of the 10 or 15 of our reviews show up there. And so you're not going to get smothered with all this content. Only content's put up by people who really like a particular content. Although there are some reviewers or some groups that whatever they do, it always pops up on there. Reddit's a very focused group. I think it's a younger group than, let's say, Board Game Geek, and they can sometimes be quite a mean group. The discourse level's pretty high, but there's a lot more trolling, and remember I said they're very strict, they don't allow your own content stuff. At the same time, they kind of let this other stuff go, and instead there's this upvoting and downvoting, and when something's downvoted enough, it collapses and it's off the picture. I've never been a really big fan of downvoting. I'd rather have moderation, but it usually works on the subreddit. Usually, people who say just inane things or are trolling, their stuff gets collapsed, and that's good. But sometimes someone will come on and say something that's simply an unpopular opinion, and it gets downvoted. Maybe they go up against someone who's popular, and they say, well, I don't really like their opinion here. Boom, they're downvoted. Maybe they have the audacity to stand on the man's side. For example, I saw there's a person going up against a very big board game company, and anybody who is like, well, maybe the company's in the right, boom, they get downvoted. So you self-promote it all, you get downvoted. So there's a bit of a harshness there, but it does mean that when I go there, I'll be able to read some pretty good threads, and they're very lively and interactive. So yeah, it has warts, and I don't know that it's the best forums that I read, but they're certainly interesting. I wouldn't mind if there was a little bit more organized. It could be anything about board games. Anything at all could show up next, but sometimes they're really big, long, involved threads, and they're just entertaining to read, period. So anyway, you might want to check that out. I certainly look at it every day.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. A classic game that sits in many collections today is Reiner Knizia's Lost Cities. This two-player game is easy to teach and play, and it seems like it would make a great digital board game. Does it? Let's take a quick look.
In Lost Cities, there's a theme, but let's face it, that doesn't really have any bearing on the gameplay.
Really, in this two-player game, you compete to score points by playing cards in ascending order by color in different columns. When you start a new column, you lose points, so you have to balance the odds with the luck of the draw. It's a simple game that fans will tell you has surprising strategic depth. From the Coding Monkeys, which brought you the stellar Carcassonne port, Lost Cities is a lovely app implementation of the game in spite of it being optimized for the iPhone only. Thankfully, it looks really good on 2x mode on an iPad, and other features mostly make up for the odd screen resolution target. The tutorial is a standout with a unique option to read or listen to it. There are multiple AIs and extensive stat tracking. There's even a high contrast mode to help with colorblind issues, and you can take back a play if you haven't drawn a new card yet. There's asynchronous online play through Game Center, and you can run multiple games at once, which is great because downtime between turns on a game like this is ridiculous. The only feature it really lacks is pass and play, which is a shame because the weight and speed of the game makes for a great sofa game. Lost Cities plays super quickly and intuitively on your iOS device. The AIs are entertaining enough to keep your brain busy, but it's still a relaxing game experience. Also, beware the Google Play unofficial app, as it has a lot of negative reviews that indicate poor quality. Is Lost Cities a revolutionary board game app? No. But it is a very well done port of a classic game that fans should consider. Give it a try.
With Essen upon us, it's amazing at just how many games are coming out at Essen. It's really just at a massive number. Eric Martin is making a geek list of games he knows about. And last I know, I think that was over 700 games. And that's just the games that he, through his painstaking research, has found. But there's probably more that aren't on that list. And Essen is just part of the board gaming world. There have been many games that were released. There's a couple hundred released at Gen Con, dozens released at Origins and other conventions, and then probably 500-600 that are just released throughout the year. And we're not even including the massive crop of released games that are now starting to hit us from finished Kickstarters. So I think it's reasonable to say there's 2,000 new games a year. Probably 3,000 if we're counting everything. But it would be hard to tell these numbers for sure. But that 3,000 a year, wow, that is a lot. It's a lot of games. And so I always tell people, go online, read the reviews, do this. I mean, that's one of the things of Dice Tower here is so we can help funnel out a lot of that noise and point you to the good stuff. But for me, this is becoming amazingly more difficult because the amount of games that's showing up, you know, it really makes me laugh when people say, well, you do this for the free games. Okay, because the games come in and we play them and then review them and then they go out because we just don't have room for them. I have a very strict limit of games here behind me. This is all I'm going to have. And if a game comes in, another game goes out. But the games are coming in and it really is starting to feel like an avalanche. And so what do we do in this circumstance? You can say, well, the best thing to do is to diversify. And that's something that the Dice Tower has done. Some people say, why do you have all these different reviewers? So that we can handle all the different games. You know, Ryan Metzler does a lot of the heavier Euro games, and Dan King handles lighter games, and Z and Sam help me, and I got Tim Jeanette and Barry Dublé and the Board Game family, and I'm missing different people, but we're trying to get a lot of voices so that they can cover everything. But for me personally, I'm like, well, okay, I can't cover everything. That's impossible. So now people start emailing me and say, will you look at my game? And I'm starting to say no to some of them because I look at their game and it's a niche game that it's never going to, I can tell this by looking at it. The hobbyist gamers aren't going to be interested in it. I'm just going to end up probably trashing the game or saying it's not a very well-designed game. It doesn't do anyone any good for me to review it. I love to review every game in the world, but it's not possible. Then I look at my closet and I look at all those games there, and it's like, how can I review all these games? And I plow through it, and that's becoming a good chunk of all my time. It's play, review, play, review, play, review. And that's fun and all, but And I want to be able to play as many games as possible. And I'll tell you why. It's not so I can do all the reviews. I don't care about that. It's because of the top 10 lists and the top 100 and all that other stuff we do, because I always sit there and go, Like, for example, Rune Wars. Rune Wars came out when I was moving to America from Korea. And so just in that shuffled period of time, I never played it when it was hot. And now I talk about games and people say, well, you haven't talked about Rune Wars. You're right. I need to get Rune Wars played. And man, it's been a bear trying to get to the table because it's a longer game. I want to play it specifically with Sam Healy so we can do the review together. it's a long game that will take multiple plays, and then we have all these other games that we need to get reviewed, and just the timing and all that, and it can be difficult. So I'm not saying this so that people go, oh man, Tom, that must be terrible having too many games. It's not a terrible thing. This is a very first world problem, but it is something you have to deal with. So at the Dice Tower, I'm going to have to make decisions here. Are we going to start just saying we don't have time to review all the games? We're just going to pick ones that we're interested in reviewing and then go from there. But man, it's tough because I'm afraid that I will miss the gems in the rough. Or bring on other people, and maybe I play the game once so that I can think about it for my top 10 list and then let someone else run with it and review it. That's actually kind of more where I'm leaning towards. But I'm telling you, I play games more than almost anyone else I know. Just play games all the time. And yet, I feel like the amount of games that need to be reviewed is getting higher and higher. And I'm about to be hit by a tsunami wave of new stuff from Essen. And then more on top of that. So I will do my best to stay abreast of this, but please don't email me and say, why haven't you reviewed this yet? Because you can't see over here in the corner, but I have 40 games that I've played enough that I'm ready to review right now. So I can do those, but I mean, doing a review does take some time. In my closet, I have another 50 to 60 games that need to be played more before I can review them. And I still haven't gone Essen yet. So I will keep working. I will chug away at this. But I'm telling you, if it's like this for me, I can't imagine what it's like for someone who doesn't get all the games and check out all the new games. So, wow, there's just this huge amount of games. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the hobby? I think it's a bit of both. It's good because, wow, look at all the choices out there. It's bad because some good games are being marginalized because they're getting covered up by other games. It's bad because people are just like, what do I get? What do I do? There's so many games. And the cult of the new is strong, but even the cult of the new, I'm noticing those people are starting to breathe heavy, like, this game came out, 3 days ago, and it's new. And the guy's like, that's garbage. This one came out 5 minutes ago. So many games. But again, really, we're complaining about something that's good. We're in a hobby that has thousands of games released. You don't have to sit there and go, I wish they would do a game like this, because they probably have. So there's plenty for everybody. And the bad and mediocre and even just good games are easily getting weeded out. And I think that's an excellent thing. Unfortunately, some great games are also getting weeded out, but that's a topic for another time. But it's interesting. We'll see how I handle this Essen crop, and I'm kind of hoping that there's a few standouts that I can notice them. But when there's 700 games to look at and you're like, oh, well, which of these are going to be the most interesting? That is where we run into the problems. But all fun looking into them nonetheless. Lots of new great games. Yes. Well, that's it for this time, folks. I hope to see several of you at Essen. For those of you who can't make it, which is probably the majority of you, then I hope that we see you on Twitter or Facebook, and I'll be back, of course, next week. If I do see you at Essen, come up to me and tell me you want to record a Shut the Door for one of my videos, or just to say hi in general. Folks, you've been a great audience. We're coming up to a year of Board Game Breakfast. That makes me so happy to see how well it's been received and to see all these great contributors. Haven't they done just fantastic? I applaud each and every one of them. I think they're the best ever. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff, in stock, at CoolStuffInc.com.